get an expert on your site that you can pitch as for what would be a broader category of incoming queries that you are likely to see. So for example, we see a lot of dermatology, health related queries. I think a beard website or a shaving website, it would totally make sense to have a dermatologist on that website, write a few posts about like looking after your skin. And then you could 100% answer the dermatology related queries, which you'll see on places like Healthline, Forbes, like fantastic websites, answer as the dermatologist and hope that the journalist would quote the dermatologist and link back to the site.
Today you join me with Chris Panteli of Linkify. So correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, but you focus on basically responding to journalist pitches. So what we used to call Haro link building, but now Haro itself has rebranded and changed a bit. Plus there's other platforms out there. So you're kind of in that digital PR space, but it's not so much as creating a campaign and blasting that out to journalists, so much as just laser targeting individual calls for experts to actually respond to these publications in order to get those premium placements. So hopefully I've got that right, but I gather you started in fish and chip shops.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me on, Stuart. SEO Jesus, pleasure. I started in fish and chips about 15 years ago now, I think, and I've been in the digital marketing space for the past coming up 4 years now. And when we first started, I noticed there was a real demand for these sorts of like ultra premium quality links, and Haro was like the de facto place where you could get them. I was pretty good at doing it myself, so I started doing some of this for my now business partners, clients that were also looking for this sort of done for you Haro service, and we sort of organically grew from there. We do both types of PR now. I like to differentiate the two with Haro, which is sort of the umbrella term. Obviously, it's now Connectively as like PR requests, and that's inbound PR coming, like the journalists asking for commentary for their articles. And then we also do digital PR campaigns as well, which is outbound. So that's where you're taking a story to the journalists. But I think inbound requests from journalists is a great place for people to get started themselves.
Definitely. It's always been very appealing. So I think like many people, just before the call, we were saying about how there's so many strategies out there, would love to do it. And the reality is one person, or even if you have a team, you can't do everything at once. You can't explore every shiny object. That's why I'm always telling my YouTube audience that when I'm posting these things on YouTube, these new interesting tactics, you don't have to go for each and every one of them. I'm just doing it as a case study. Quite often it is a shiny object. So if you've got something that's working for you, keep doing what's working for you. But on that note of Haro links, yeah, I tried it years ago and had a little bit of success. And at the time, there weren't any really Haro agencies out there. And there was someone who said, this is such a goldmine opportunity for anyone who could actually get a team together and train them on this process. So yeah, I actually registered some very specific Haro related domains at the time, which I think it would technically violate trademarks if I it was so tough to actually scale. So I could just about do Haro outreach myself. And obviously we'll go into more detail in this shortly, but correct me if I'm wrong. But I think the real key is you'll get this wave of responses, I think twice a day, isn't it? And you've got all these different industries. And of course, if you want to do this at scale, you want to tick, send me everything, and I want to respond to everything. And what you then find is, well, in my case, my affiliate website was all about shaving, ironically, whilst growing the beard.
Yeah.
Therefore, I was going through these categories and thinking, there is nothing here for me to actually talk about. And then you realize you need to step back a bit and think, no, they're looking for business owners on, digital marketing or how websites work, how your favorite tools, things like that. So actually, for even something as specific as shaving, you can still step back and have commentary on some of these broader business topics. So it seemed like that was a lot of the art, and that's kind of what's really difficult to train a team member on. This isn't about me, so Chris, does that sound familiar to you? And is there a sort of development from that you'd recommend?
Yeah, I'd say it's evolved quite significantly from that period of time. First and foremost, now Haro is like no longer exists in the format that many people will remember it. It's now Connectively. So it used to be thrice daily emails, Monday to Friday, which on a personal level, if you were doing this yourself, was could seem quite manageable because you would pick a slot that was suitable for you to look through the emails and then send responses to the ones that you wanted to respond to. Now it's moved to Connectively, which is like a dashboard with an albeit clunky UI for some people. So there's no emails anymore. Everything is just added in real time. So you sort of need to get onto the platform and when you can and look through. They've got some sort of rudimentary filters in there which you can use. And also it's now no longer like completely free. So I think you can do 5 free pitch responses a month. And then everything after that, you have to pay per pitch. So it's not exorbitantly expensive. I think it's like $1 a pitch maybe. But that does mean you need to really utilize your pitches. And then to speak to what you said earlier, it was definitely a tactic which worked a few years ago, where if you were in a very, very specific niche, that you could answer broader sort of business topics, or I think at the time, during COVID, maybe a lot of people were working from home, and there was a lot of work from home queries on good websites. So you could answer those, position yourself as, a shaving website owner who runs his business from home. But that seems to have changed a lot now. And what you really need to do is position yourself as an expert and be answering the queries that best assign to your expertise. And there's many things that you can do with that. That sounds like, well, there isn't going to be many shaving specific queries on Haro. That's true. There isn't. So what you can do is you need to position either yourself or get an expert on your site that you can pitch as for what would be a broader category of incoming queries that you are likely to see. So for example, we see a lot of dermatology, health related queries. I think a beard website or a shaving website, it would totally make sense to have a dermatologist on that website, write a few posts about like looking after your skin. And then you could 100% answer the dermatology related queries, which you'll see on places like Healthline, Forbes, like fantastic websites. Answer as the dermatologist and hope that the journalist would quote the dermatologist and link back to the site. And there's loads of different ways you can entice that to make that happen.
Nice. So this is like EEAT on steroids, basically, where they just want those names on your website, but you also need not just to prove it to Google, but to prove it to the journalists as well.
100%. Yeah, it works in tandem. So, and there's loads of other stuff you can do as well. Like, so you find that person, there's different places you can go to find these experts, make it clear to them what you want to do. You want to get them on your about page as like a contributor, a senior editor, something like that. Just get a little bit of content off them just to legitimize the relationship between the website and the person, and tell them that you want to be able to pitch under their name. Tell them that everything you write is going to be in, it's going to be above board. You're not going to say anything crazy. And then sell it to them as well. So the big selling point is often these people you find will be freelance writers, and you can tell them, I'm going to get your name featured in some huge publications, and that can be something you can promote as a freelance writer to your potential customers. And yeah, it's EE on steroids. Not only has your beard website now got a dermatologist representing it, that dermatologist you can if they've written for other good publications, which they often will have, if you found a good legitimate dermatologist who's written for other larger publications, you can put that in same as schema on your website to tell Google the other places that this author you have on your website has written for. Then you're going to be winning links back to this author's name, which is on your website. So the whole thing is just going to explode your EAT, and we see it time and time again.
Nice. Sounds like you could potentially get a knowledge panel then for your guest author.
Yeah.
It's a really good tactic that I think a lot of people don't really, again, they fear it. So they think it's going to be more complicated than it actually is. Because you think, how on earth am I going to get a doctor or a lawyer in these kinds of your money or your life type niches? And the reality is you can just go onto Upwork, because as you say, a lot of them will freelance as writers.
Mm-hmm.
Because they know people are willing to pay $50 per 1,000 words for the right kind of content. I basically bought an expired domain that used to be a big medical journal. This was probably 4 years ago, something like that. And I rebuilt it, tried to make it look like a medical journal, but it was still promoting affiliate products. And yeah, it was quite a tough medical niche. So I just went into Upwork and I was able to find a medic in that niche. And as you say, it was just a simple negotiation. Their per writing rate was very high. But I then said, what would it cost for you just to look over and edit our existing content? And that was much cheaper. So we basically made sure everything we published went through her, and therefore everything published on this journal could then say it's been medically reviewed by this person, and we have the full EAT there. But what we didn't do, as in your case, is then take that further and leverage their authority to score backlinks. So yeah, I really like that. Going back to what you said, obviously we've had this rebrand with Haro. So it is now this dashboard where you pick off what you want to respond to. And of course, there's a bit more of a paywall element. Mm-hmm. The big question that I've been discussing with a lot of people, haven't actually tested it myself yet, but I don't need to, because I'm sure you can tell me, what does the conversion rate actually look like now?
It's better.
Because certainly over the last few years, I know it was this gold mine, and then progressively it got more and more competitive, and suddenly there were these reports coming out saying journalists get something like 150 responses per pitch, something like that. So the chance of you actually scoring one of those links became incredibly low. But yeah, now suddenly a lot of that market's been shrunk down, i.e. finding it's got a lot better. You're much more likely to actually land those links.
Yeah, 100%. And we're seeing it as a golden era. So first and foremost, before they made the switch, and I think much of the reason that they did make the switch was because we were seeing sort of AI-based tools coming out. Some of them still exist. They're getting taken down like quite frequently now. So plug and play AI responses, which would just like you'd put some basic information in, AI would write a response for you, send it to as a response to the Haro email. So as you can imagine, journalists are getting absolutely bombarded with garbage. Yep. Even if you were pitching really, really well, that you would often get lost in the journalist inbox, and many of the journalists were feeling frustrated with this, and yeah, hence the change over to the connected platform. So I think this is a golden era now, because even though some people will still be spamming, you know, if they've got some budget and they can afford to, you know, waste a few pitches or tens of pitches on the chance that one journalist will like their AI garbage written pitch, that has significantly reduced, which means if you do a good pitch, you can use AI, but make sure it doesn't look like AI, you know, make sure it's passing plagiarism tests, blah, 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 blah. Then you have a really, really good shot, especially if you're marrying those two elements, which I said, which is the expertise of the person you're pitching as with the expertise required from the journalist. So if they're looking for a dermatologist and you're pitching as a qualified dermatologist representing your beard website, and the pitch is good, you've got all those elements, you've got a really good chance. And now your email's landing in a box, not covered and surrounded by hundreds of AI crap, but much less. So you've got a really good chance. And then the other huge shift that we're seeing, which is lending itself really, really well into our actual digital PR campaigns, is that this is becoming a really, really fruitful era to develop relationships with journalists from one side of PR. So expert quotes, Haro, getting them to come back to you for other pitches. And don't forget, many of these journalists are freelance writers. So we're seeing this time and time again. They'll come back and say, thanks so much for that pitch that you sent me last week, which went on The Sun. I'm writing a new article on the Express, and I'm hoping that you can provide me some commentary for this article. So the journalists now more than ever are leveraging existing relationships. And then on top of that, if you do want to venture into digital PR, which is a little bit more setup, a little bit more work, you will already have started to build your Rolodex of relationships with journalists that you know have covered similar topics in the past. You've already got a relationship, and that's when you can start reaching out and say, hey, I've worked on this campaign. Would you like to see it? Is this something you'd be interested in running with?
Very nice. There's definitely much more intimate, much more genuine, constructive. So just to go into a bit more detail about what you were saying, just so people realize the extent people were going with these AI responses. Basically take this, the standard batch email that went out 3 times a day, and then using something like Make or Zapier, one of those type automation tools, basically train the AI so that if there's any relevant topic in there, it would craft you this response using this persona, and then immediately get back to them. And of course, some people really abuse this. Haro was getting really quite aggressive with basically banning people from the platform. And of course, they're then just trying to resubscribe with a different email address. So you can see why it was such a problem. I've also heard it from the other extent where people have got into a lot of trouble with them for doing that at the same time. But even without the automation, when we first had the first GPT-3 tools like Jasper and Writer and those kinds of things, it was quite easy to go to your VA and say, just take this response, put it into the A. Bear in mind, that was a new shiny object at the time. But of course, conversion rate from that, partly from competition, but also the quality of your response, therefore, went down.
Yeah, and as well, that's definitely true. I think there was like a window of opportunity where you could just, I remember getting some of the AI writing tools off AppSumo, which was, they were terrible, but they did sort of speed it up. And you'd like look at the response that it would produce and you'd think, oh, this is kind of passable, but nobody else was really doing it. So you could send off, your volume you could really put up. Not a lot of people were doing it, and you could win quite a few links. But obviously, as soon as ChatGPT hit the market, everybody started abusing it. Journalists started noticing it. And don't forget as well, the journalists, they're professionals. They can smell AI, anyway. They don't need to.
The landscape.
Yeah. And they want to protect their reputations and their jobs as well. So the other thing is, it's not just about, is it getting flagged as AI? It's whether or not it's being flagged as plagiarized as well. So that's a really important thing. So you really, I say you should be using AI because it's brilliant at like so many things. You just need to make it you need to be training the AI models. You need to be taking in external data. You need to be doing some really clever stuff with it, which increases your output and your speed, but also is sending really good quality pictures. But yeah, I think the abuse side of it, I think, is trailing off now with the new platform, and the journalists seem happier, and you give them a good response, then they'll want to work with you again in the future, which is really nice to see.
Very nice. So not just Haro as well. So we've now had lots of very similar platforms spring up all over the place. I'm struggling to remember the names now, but you can obviously fill me in. Of course, there's Twitter. And was it Ask a Journo, Ask an Expert, something like that as a hashtag?
Yeah. So we had one interesting thing, we had the original founder of Haro, a man called Peter Shankman. He sold the company, and sort of Haro didn't really do, or Sission, the company that owns Haro, didn't really do anything with it for 15 years, just sort of left it in the same format that Peter Shankman originally devised it, which was 3 emails a day, Monday to Friday, in the way that we were all familiar with. As a response to this sort of AI spamming, they converted it over to Connectively, which obviously is better in many ways, but it is a bit clunky. There is some sort of some elements of getting used to with the UI. Some journalists don't love it. They miss having that inbox element, so that they can control their what's going on with their source requests. So as a result of some of this backlash to the change, Peter Shankman actually launched a new service, originally called Hero instead of Haro, so help every reporter out. He's then rebranded that now to which is sourceofsources.com. And that is basically the old Haro for free, being run by Peter Shankman. So you can sign up for that for free. There's some really good domains on there. But what you want to do is you do not want to be spamming it. You want to make sure you are a real expert, and you want to make sure that you're answering queries properly, and you're not obviously using AI to produce responses. And with with that new platform as well, what we're seeing is Peter has actually built in some protection for the pictures. So some platforms like Quoted, for example, is another one. It's a paid one. Many of the same requests you see on Quoted, and much like Twitter as well, like you said, hashtag journo request, hashtag PR requests. Many of them are posting their requests on all the platforms that they can. But with the source for sources or the old Haro, what we were seeing some abuse from the actual posting side, so from the journalist side. So you'd see some of these like 3-way link scams, basically. You'd have somebody post a request and say, I'm looking for an expert for X, Y, and Z for this website. It would look like a good website. DR would check out, traffic would check out, website would look legit. You'd craft, your response, you'd send it in. Obviously, we were doing this for clients, so we'd send 2 or 3 responses for the same query, and then we'd get an identical response back saying, good quote, I can't use it, unfortunately, because I've already selected all my sources. However, if you include a link back to this website, I'll give you a link from this other website. So yeah, three-way link spams, all of that, but happening on the side of the journalist. So what Peter Shankman's done is, for a bit of protection for us as people, providing the commentary, but, either on behalf of clients or for ourselves, he's now got an integration with Muckrack, which is like a journalist media tool, one of the biggest ones. So you can actually verify the journalists and the publications that they write for before you send your comments in. So that's quite a nice feature, and we'll probably start seeing more of that across the different platforms. Nice.
I remember now. It's help a B2B writer.
Oh yeah, that's another one. Yeah, that's a good one.
Turkle, I think, is recently rebranded as well.
Yeah, that's rebranded to featured.com. That's a good platform. It's not quite the same as pure expert commentary. So they actually produce the articles themselves for the publications that you'll see. Right. It's a little bit more guest posty roundup, as opposed to a purely editorially earned request. So I wouldn't put that in the same category as digital PR, like expert requests or PR campaigns. It is a platform worth pursuing if you want to build links outside of, white hat editorially earned PR, but it is something you need to check, especially if you're hiring an agency to do digital PR for you. You really want to make sure that it is a real earned, especially if you want to maintain a white hat. Just be careful, because some of those will be 10 experts say this, and you'll have a beard expert, a lawyer, an insurance company all in the same article. It's not quite the same.
Yeah, I know a lot of people talking about, you've got a lot of agencies now saying we'll get you on HubSpot.com and things like that, so you can quite quickly identify there are these kinds of avenues where you can get onto the blog section or some of the major companies using tools like that. So in terms of, obviously, these are mostly no-follow links, and annoyingly, quite often they'll mention you and you won't even get the link out of it. You can go back and forth, can't you? But
Yeah.
generally, from an agency perspective, it always looks quite tough for Haro agencies because they'll say we're guaranteeing these certain metrics, but we're also guaranteeing it's going to be an actual link and all these other qualifiers. Partly because Haro links and similar are, of course, very expensive. I think yours are around $750. I would say a cynic is someone who knows the price of everything and the value of nothing. Let's not beat about the bush. These are really good quality links. We're talking DR80, 90, and as you say, as close to, would I call them white hat? Yeah, there's no exchange as such going on. It always frustrates me when people say we do these white hat links, and it's because they're swapping something like some content or social media blast, something like that. You're saying that's still a transaction. Those are not white hat links. Not that I'm one to judge, but I'm just saying if you're saying you're white hat, then make sure you are white hat. So no, in your case, $750 per link for a very good link. But yeah, it does seem like there can be a lot of back and forth with those platforms. Not only are you trying to get the placement actually winning and getting featured in the article, but then actually making sure it fulfills all the criteria of your client. How do you find that side of things?
Yeah, I mean, I think the market sentiment is definitely moving towards what is doable now. So it will be a mix of do follow, no follow, and that is holistically dependent on the publication that you win the quote from the journalist. So oftentimes,
actually, let me just interrupt you there briefly. So I get loads of people coming back to me on YouTube saying, no follow links don't work, whether I'm talking about press releases or other kinds of link building. And they always come back and say it's no follow is completely worthless. And that basically shows you haven't dug down and done enough testing. I always like to quote, obviously, Carl Roof is the king of doing these really good quality tests where he'll basically create his own search result using nonsense words and then create several pages based on those nonsense words where there's no competition. It is a vacuum. And he can therefore perform these very careful tests, repeat them 5 times, and then to prove it, repeat the inverse. So if we add this H2 on these pages, do they go up? Do they go down? And now if we remove those H2s, do they go back to where they were? And now he did a test.
He did that with us. That was a joint test.
I'm setting you up to say this. Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Yes, I really like that test where he said was confirmed that no follow links do work as long as the no follow page that's linking to you is actually ranking for relevant keywords. And yeah, I was in the audience at SEO Estonia where he was giving that story again. And he said we partnered up with Chris Panteli at Linkify. So on that note, about that investigation.
So yeah, sorry to interrupt your build up for that. So well, we were building clients great links, and they were as a fundamental editorial policy of some of these publications, they were no follow. So as an agency, we started to think like, do clients need to be sort of a bit more educated on a no follow link, and what is the actual how do you weigh between the two? So if you're a real estate agent with a real estate agency website and realtor.com, you can get a link from them, but Realcom exclusively no follows all source, then is that something that the real estate agent wants or doesn't want because it's no follow? So, and we were building these sorts of links for these sorts of clients. That's just an example. And we were seeing great movement. So the number of keywords they're ranking for and search traffic, the more of these links, a mix of do follow, no follow, but a healthy amount of no follow. We were seeing an increase in, across the board for all metrics. So then I approached Carl Roof and said, look, I'm seeing good results from both of our do follow and no follow links for clients. I can't for the life of me imagine that a real estate agency wouldn't want a link from the biggest real estate website on the planet, realtor.com, DR90 and however many millions of organic traffic. Can we do a test?
Bert explained it to me saying, when I said, I had the dogma in my head, no follow links aren't good. And he said to me, if you had a choice of a link from BBC or New York Times, would you take it? Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
What do you think Google therefore thinks about that link?
Yeah, 100%. So we approached Kyle, and I'd heard about these sorts of tests that he'd done before as well. I thought it was just so simple, so clean, and you could get like an answer pretty quickly. So he helped us position a single variable test where we ranked 5 lorem ipsum pages. So no discernible factors of any difference. When these 5 pages were ranked, we took the third ranking page and we sent a single no follow link to that page. And within 24 hours, that page that was ranking number 3 went to number 1. So it just proved that it is a signal, and it's a signal which has a positive impact on rankings. And the page that we actually did it with 2 different links, one with not much traffic and not on a great website, and that didn't do anything. And then the one that we sent that did have, I think it was 1,000 sessions per month traffic to the page, it made that movement up to number 1 within 24 hours. And Google will see that, and also, it also makes complete sense that Google is going to understand these great links and the context of your website being featured on like an industry related or a huge tier 1 publication. We recently saw from the Google leaks that the sorts of links that Google is giving credence to are on tier 1 publications and on fresh pages, which is exactly these sorts of links. Connectively Haro links, PR campaign links, they're brand new pages on very, very premium publications. And then also outside of the fact that, okay, you've got this link, it's no follow, it's expensive if you've paid an agency such as us to build it for you. But what other benefits outside of the algorithmic benefit, which we proved with our study with Carl Roof, what other benefits are you getting? Well, it's your EEA. So if you're going to get a visual manual inspection from a Google search quality rater, and they're coming to a real estate website and they want to make sure you are a real estate website and not some dodgy affiliate site hiding behind the guise of a real estate website, and they see that you've been featured on Realtor.com, New York Times, BBC, instant credibility to your customers, and the whole circle just goes in on itself. And we see this time and time again with clients that these are just great links. Google loves them and they're great to have.
Nice. Very geeky question here, but you say you built some of those links to Lorem Ipsum pages from good websites. How on earth did you get a link to a Lorem Ipsum website?
No, we built one no follow link from one of our websites.
Right.
So that, so it met the criteria of everything we needed, which was no follow, and then the page and domain had traffic. Obviously this wasn't an editorially earned link, but that wasn't the point of the study. The point was just to see if no follow passed juice, and yeah, it did.
Yes, yeah, I thought it sounded like your own website, so I was just checking. So obviously, well, this is obviously going to YouTube where most of my audience is, and lots of people still starting out, very limited budgets. So I often get people asking me, this sounds great, but literally I've got a budget of less than $100. Where on earth do I start in all this? And yeah, in my case, I'm always telling people, especially if you're a local business, realistically, a cheap $50 press release and some citations for $50 is probably all you really need. But obviously there is this quantity versus quality argument. I think certainly over the last few years, Haro's been a great resource where if you had the time but not the money, you really could sit down and grind and respond to some of those requests and therefore get those really high quality links, which would boost you up. Mm-hmm. So what would your recommendation be today to that 90% of the audience who really don't have the budget for Done For You, don't have the budget for Muckrack and all these more premium journalist outreach tools? How can they start getting good high quality PR backlinks?
Yeah, well, and that's why I love talking about this, because you really can. And obviously when you do get budget and your business grows, you want to scale into outsourcing the expert quote side of it, and then eventually go on to PR campaigns and expert quote, and be spending good budget on these sorts of things continuously in order to further extend the growth of your business. But when you're starting out, my best advice is this. So first of all, determine what niche you're in and what expert would make sense to pitch within your niche. So if you own, if you're a fitness instructor and you own a fitness website, then that's done, job done. You're an expert, you can go and start pitching. If you own a beard affiliate site, then you need to start thinking about who you can get to pitch as on that site. And like you discussed earlier, you can find that relatively cheaply from Upwork. You don't even really need to get much more than 1 or 2 pieces of content, and that's also got the added benefit of you then own that asset. So you've got 1 or 2 pieces of content. Ask if you can list them on your about page as a senior editor or a lead contributor, and that's going to be working in your EAT. So it's not just money you're spending to get links, it's got that added benefit of bolstering your EAT as well. So not too much money for that, and you're also getting some content. Then what I would do is, because also I know when you're on a budget, it's not just financial, it's time as well. What I would do, and this is the advice I give to everyone, determine your niche, determine your competitors. So the top level competitors, go to their websites and look for ones that have got a featured in banner. You see these sometimes, featured in, and then it's got some logos underneath. What you'll see there is 5 or 6 of the top websites that these that your competitors have been featured in, and the chances are almost certainly that they have won those features via expert quote pitching, Haro or Connectively or any of the other sources that we said. Jot down a bunch of those websites, okay? And then what you need to do then is go sign up to Connectively for the free 5 pitches per month and pick one domain to begin with. So let's say you own a gardening website and you're a gardening expert. Go and look at your competition. It's almost certain that you'll see your competition. One of the sites they will have been featured in is homesandgardens.com. And they source expert commentary quite prolifically across all of the platforms. So choose that as your first target domain, as an example. What you want to do is monitor all the incoming requests from that domain. And when you get time, send a pitch response. Okay, well crafted. Set aside 20, 25 minutes to craft your response and reply. Keep doing that for as long as it takes until eventually you win a link from that publication, which I guarantee at some point you will. Then you've got your first high authority niche related domain in the bag. And all you've had to spend is either nothing, if you yourself are the expert, or a little bit of money on forming a relationship with someone that you can pitch as and get the content on the site. And once you've got that first site done, move on to the second one. And you can do this in the background. It's not going to take you too much additional time, and it's not going to cost you much money. And you're going to be able to get those 4 or 5 foundational links, super high authority, that your competition already has, and therefore you should have and need to have.
Very nice. So I was going to follow that up with, if you had $1,000 as a budget to start a new site complete from scratch, assuming the actual site is built, this is for the off page now, how would you spend it? It sounds like exactly as you were saying, you probably wouldn't even spend the full budget. You rely much more on your time rather than, you spend the money on actually getting that expert in, but it doesn't sound like you're going to be blowing that budget on those actual links. To me, from my perspective, I would do a press release, citations, a couple of guest posts probably to get the authority into the inner pages, the actual commercial pages we want to rank. And I suppose that's probably a good argument there that you can get those PR links for free, but they are going to be to the homepage and broader branded authority links versus powerful inner page links to commercial pages. So there's an argument there that does that seem like a logical structure to you want your citations and press release to get those foundations, you want your guest posts and link insertions into your commercial pages, and then the actual PR links, technically they're free apart from your guest expert. So would you say that would be the right structure?
Yeah, I would. And I would also say if you are going to be doing inner page link building, if you're going to be doing niche edits and guest posts, then you want to have at least some homepage high authority links. Otherwise, your backlink profile isn't going to look natural. Yeah. So it's going to just allow you to do other forms of link building in a much safer environment. And once you get to a level of budget where you want to scale that, and if you're the type of person that is building inner page links to money pages, you want to start building higher frequency guest posts, you're going to need to increase the amount of homepage authority links that you build as well, which is at that point when you may decide to sort of outsource parts of that. But yeah, I think you need to be having a holistic link building strategy. And if you want to do one, you can't just build niche edits. Like you build like 1,000 niche edits and that's all you do, then, I'd be careful about doing that. So yeah, I would definitely have a holistic strategy to it.
Yeah, that's our bread and butter in the agency. That certainly if a new site starts with us, we tell them that for your first couple of months, it all needs to be to the homepage, because how unnatural would it be if you've got this new site, homepage isn't getting any attention, but your, best supplements for muscle gain page is suddenly attracting all these links. Over time, you don't want to skew that ratio either. So consistently, we will build a lot of links to the homepage. And to your point, there is a cost to that. If you've got that budget, and that budget's being split between your sort of safety net of building up the homepage and then powering up the actual inner commercial pages.
Yeah.
But to your point, yeah, people like to see things black and white. And they say you should only do digital PR or white hat links like this, or you should only do guest posting and niche edits, whatever. And I think we can both agree that the answer is you really want to do everything to maximize the benefits and mitigate the risks of both of them. And I think certainly if you're not using a team like yourself, going down the PR route is difficult to scale. And we do have that issue that a lot of it is no follow. Not that that's a massive issue, but the fact it's branded, it goes to the homepage. Powerful do follow guest posts that go to your inner pages. That's still gold. But like I say, if you're given the choice of these major publications, would you turn them down? Absolutely not.
100%, yeah. And I think that's a great starting strategy as well, like you said, on a budget. So build the links that you should have, your social profiles, some citations, some homepage links, which you can do on a budget for free or next to, not much money. And you can get all of those first set of links that you could and should have, and then sort of see how things progress on like in a business sense with where the websites go in and where you want to focus on. I definitely think that's a great strategy. Yeah.
Now, stepping back a bit, I also wanted to grill you a bit about agency life, because
Okay.
yeah, plenty of people out there listening, I'm sure, are service providers of some sort or another, maybe specific SEO agencies, but also quite often just broader digital marketing agencies or developers looking to offer more SEO services to clients. So what's your journey been so far within building Linkify?
It's been great. Yeah, it's we started nearly 4 years ago, I think now. We grew quite quickly, which was exciting. Systems and processes is the key to everything. You've got to have systems and processes in place, and we were sort of building that like to match the demand. So it's nice that we've got to a point now where we have systems and processes in place, a great team. We talked to Mad Singers recently, and he talks about how you have to great ways to build your team and have good people and train and promote people within. And then also as well, I think it's been great to attend things like conferences for networking. It's great to learn from other people that are either, a bit behind you or a bit ahead of you. You can always take away 1 or 2 pieces of information which you can like implement and see traction. Yeah, and I just think it is one of those things where if you can get your name out there as much as possible, building like a personal brand as well. Like, so if someone's just starting out with an agency, start talking about what you're doing on social, make connections, and yeah, do as much as you can for your own personal brand and just feed that back into your business.
And you did a really good job of the influencer marketing side, it seems like, when you started, which makes total sense. In most products and product owners I talk to, I always say, who are the biggest people in your industry? Can you get a shout out from them and give them some sort of cut? So going through your website, you've got John Dijkstra, Niche Site Lady, Jason Mills, Charles Float. So it seems like that was a really strong strategy for you early on.
Yeah, it was. And obviously, we were quite heavily focused in the affiliate space. So when the power affiliates in that space sort of stopped focusing on Google traffic as much, it meant that as a lead gen source has not been as lucrative as it was when we started out. We were making a pivot. We did see a little bit the writing on the wall with the affiliate site. So we knew to start moving. We're quite heavily focused in the e-com space now. We do great link building for e-com and real estate. And so like you, I mean, we chatted before we came on, like we're always testing. It's really fun to test, but it's also, you want to see results. So as soon as you start seeing results, that's where we're starting to like double down. But I love the testing part. I'm also really bad with shiny object syndrome. So I do lose focus a bit. But if I see a new YouTube video of somebody or someone posts a tweet and I think that's a good idea, I got to test that. And then I'm testing too many things at the same time. And so that's a personal thing to get better at. But I also, say again?
You're still running many of your own projects?
Yeah, we have some e-com sites. We have our own sites. We've just started something new as well, which is in early stages. So we're doing like many, our own podcast as well, which is a great source of lead gen. A lot of these things it's hard to put an ROI on as well. Like, if you do ads and you've got tracking set up, you can sort of track who's purchased as a result of the ad, and you can just easily get metrics from spend, conversion, and is it worth it? Pour more money on it? Do I need to make changes? Things like conferences and the podcast is a lot of fun, but it's harder to see that instant ROI. However, it is definitely something that we see long-term benefit in. We'll have people come and say, we had someone just email me the other day, say, I saw you speak at a conference a few months ago. Can you give me some more information? So months down the line, you can have, and I'm sure you have the same as well, you with your YouTube and all.
Yeah, they say it takes 5 touch points to access. For anyone who doesn't understand that, it's literally they need to see your face and hear you speak 5 times. And yes, I've got my YouTube audience, but anyone who comes to my website, you'll find you quickly get retargeted on Facebook. You can join my email list. I've got various courses out, things like that. But yeah, to your point about conferences, when you're off the digital platform, it becomes very difficult to actually attribute. But yeah, same thing. I've been to really intimate masterminds where I basically come away with nothing, but then a couple of months down the line, someone reaches out to me saying, you were referred to me by someone who was at that event, and now I want to spend $5,000 a month with you.
Yeah. Crazy, isn't it?
In my case, all these platforms have got their own audiences. So I know some people have really doubled down on Twitter. I've heard that doesn't really convert too well for a lot of them. My audience mostly on YouTube, and there's always that fear, that paranoia that if anyone who's looking at SEO YouTube knows who I am, but suddenly go on to SEO Twitter, and it's much more fragmented. So I'm always thinking there's 80% of the market out there I'm missing because I'm not on those platforms. So yes, you've got the argument of repurposing and so on, but as we know, you've got to focus. It's very difficult to be everywhere all at the same time. And I'd argue you're better off sticking with your main channel rather than spreading yourself too thin. But when it comes to conferences and speaking, things like that, there's always that sense of, I've got this machine, this funnel operator. How can I get people into it who were not already going to go into it? So if I go to a conference, it could be a completely different industry, different level of person, and yeah, they might not even know what SEO is or where to find the right videos. And yet, if they then join my email list from the speaking event, then I'll send them loads of my videos. That builds that trust, and then they'll find me on Quick Ads, things like that.
Yeah.
So, like I say, it's very holistic and very difficult to track.
Yeah, but like you said as well, it is that sort of digital multi-touch point, isn't it? People see you on, a Facebook ad, and then they come across you on a YouTube video, and then they think, yeah, I know this guy. And then, weeks or months down the line.
Yeah, it was a real shock for me when really quite big people in the industry, I'd meet up with them and they'd say, dude, you are everywhere. Am I?
Yeah.
It seems like you're everywhere. If they're on YouTube a lot, they see all my videos going up daily. Then suddenly they're seeing me all over Facebook. Then they're getting my emails. So that's increasingly where we're moving toward as a society. We're not going to have these big celebrities so much anymore. Much more about micro celebrities tailored to your niche. So you see the people who are completely obsessed with Alex Hormozy, and to them, he's bigger than Taylor Swift. And yet,
I'm that person. If I met like Hormozy, or I think I bumped into Gail from Authority Hackers at one of the conferences. I'm like a schoolgirl. I feel like I've bumped into it.
I met Mark Webster a number of years ago.
Oh yeah.
It was probably another year or two before I met Gail. And yeah, I thought you were my foundations in SEO. Yeah, of course, they're very high standard, and there's always that sense of imposter syndrome.
Definitely, yeah. But yeah, I love that micro celebrity, yeah.
But again, that point about Authority Hacker, so lots of uncertainty and doubts in the industry at the moment. Obviously, don't ask a barber if you need a haircut. You and I both say the same thing. If you go onto any e-commerce query, SEO is an absolute goldmine still. Lately, I've been trying to, how can I put it, find more interests and hobbies to balance out with my workload. So I've been going down these little rabbit holes. I mean, yesterday, I made a bonsai tree. I went to a garden centre, got a bush, and used the clippers and wired it up and tried to create a reusable bonsai. Reality is it takes 5 to 10 years of constant attention. But then a couple of months ago, I discovered you can get these replica Wild West firearms. I've literally got one in the drawer. And they're fully legal, but absolutely beautiful. Very nicely made. And yeah, suddenly you look at the search volumes for these kinds of niche items. So they're about $100 each, but really high-end replica Western revolvers. And yet the websites that are ranking for them, DR10, 20, they're dominating that niche for every replica Wild West firearm.
And that's a high intent search as well then, isn't it? So SEO is still alive and well. There's low DR sites ranking for these high intent keywords. There's still lots and lots of money to be made. You've just got to know where to do it.
I think the problem we're having in the industry is, the headline is SEO doesn't work anymore. And that's because you and I both started in the sort of niche affiliate website community. And I think in terms of volume, in terms of sheer size, that was probably 90% of the SEO market, when we still had these big corporates, big enterprises and e-com sites that were probably much bigger spenders, but they weren't the average person in a day job who had this hobby blog on the side. Fortunately, it's all of those who have been wiped out by recent Google updates very unfairly. So I suppose, how are you navigating that in terms of what we're hearing in the industry? We can go into Ahrefs and we can look at all these websites that are absolutely crushing it with SEO if they're an actual business with an actual product, whereas unfortunately the whole sort of blogging and publishing community has changed really radically over the last couple of months.
Yeah, well, I was speaking to Ryan Stewart the other day, and I think he put it in a really good sense, to think that you have to look at the keywords that Google wants to protect. So the ones that they aren't going to serve AI overviews for, the ones that makes them the money, and this is the keywords which people are going to bid on. So highly targeted keywords that will have like a high cost to bid. These keywords can be ranked for and will likely not be bulldozed over by like AI overviews and stuff like that. So we're still seeing obviously really good results. E-com stores, legitimate businesses ranking. And then much more highly targeted as well, keywords in different spaces. So the opportunities are there. I just think where it's shifted is, what Google doesn't want to put on their first page is top places in Bali to have a beer. Like, it doesn't really offer any value. You're not going to rank for it, and Google instead is going to serve its users a better experience than a top 10 places to have a beer in Bali covered in like display ads. This is what Ryan Stewart said. So look at the sorts of keywords that that people are bidding on and that you could rank for organically instead. I think is where
I'm always saying CPC should be your guiding factor. It's not about the volume or the competition. It's, does this have a high CPC, preferably above $5, and are there DR10s, 20s ranking for it?
100%. Yeah.
So I've got a lead generation website at the moment that's a very small niche of insurance, and the CPC at the moment is about $10. In the past, it was about $30 or $40. Literally DR10's ranking for it, and I've just got my lead gen site to #1 for that keyword.
Wow.
So the traffic value of that site is something like $2,000 a month, and yet the traffic estimate is only around 150 visitors.
Yeah,
So,
definitely. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
but to your point about looking at the top of the search results, I think that's really important, especially when you look at how over the last few years, Google's got much more aggressive with the ads. So I think a lot of my rise in SEO, when I first started really understanding it, really getting good at it, was during the pandemic. And it was after that that I had this sort of big wake-up call that actually I'm not as good as I thought I was. It was just that everyone pulled their ad spend. So a lot of the keywords that should have had loads of ads at the top didn't anymore. And obviously we've seen as Google has evolved over the last couple of years, it's no longer 2 ads at the top, it's now 4 ads at the top. If you're looking at a local search term, I still think local's a gold mine, but you've got paid ads, you've then got the paid GBP ads, which are a new feature. Then you've got the local map pack, and then you have the organic results. So same as yourself, I'm looking at more and more ecom projects. And in my case, the reason that the Wild West guns really appealed to me is there are niches out there where Google won't display ads at all. So if you look at we do a lot in the adult niche. We've got a lot of clients there. Any sort of firearms, even though this is a complete replica, deactivated, fully legal, you can't just bid on the keywords. So if you look at the top of Google for these kinds of queries, you've got this. It's like Google 10 years ago. Organic results, no ads at the top. And dare I say it, adult, some of these are some of the biggest industries in the world. So opportunity there. It's just really unfortunate that, if I really took to this bonsai thing and decided I want to start bonsaiadvisor.com or something like that, I'm not going to rank for many of those keywords and make much money out of that anymore, unless Google reverses some of its recent changes. Yeah,
agreed. And I think we have to sort of stand up and sort of say, is that fair? Is that right? Now, I'm not saying if you started bonsaiadvisor.com that you wouldn't, actually have all of the skills, the genuine images, and even sites that have done that have been punished. But Google wants to offer its users, and don't forget, Google is a privately owned company. They can do whatever they want. They don't owe us anything. So we have to play ball in their court.
Yeah. I get really tired with a lot of the complaining you see in the community. Yes, it sucks. There's also nothing you can do about it. Just keep pushing forward, working on it, and you'll find the opportunities. If you're going to go around in circles saying, Google's kicking me, well, Google doesn't care. You're still being kicked.
And don't rely on 100% on Google. Test and have other streams. Like again, Ryan Stewart said this brilliantly when I spoke to him. He said if you're wholly relying on Google traffic, you don't have a business, you have a side hustle. And I thought that was really, really well summed up. So that's a good thing to think about if you're just getting into this, or you've been in it for a while and you've got 80-90% of your traffic's coming from organic search. Just try and diversify away from that.
As usual, I've drifted a bit, but I still want to talk to you more about agency stuff. So do you have a sort of big revenue goal for the agency within the next couple of years or so?
And like an exit is always the something to think about, but not in the sense that I would want to exit. Just to quote Carl Roof, he once said before he exited, he had a really big exit for his agency. I remember he said when he was putting things in place to exit, he obviously wanted to sell it for the best price possible. And in order to do that, he had to implement a lot of things and make changes to a lot of things that weren't in place. Better SOPs, more streamlined operations. And he said, once they'd got to that point, he actually increased profitability by 25%. He said, if I'd have been doing that from the beginning, then, maybe he wouldn't have even exited. So I think that's really interesting. Should always be in a mindset of exit, just because you'll be running a better company. I can't
remember. It'll come to me. I'm sure I'll put it in the show notes when I remember it later. But it literally says that try and package your business for an exit, whether or not you intend to exit anyway, is a better business that can run itself. And then you've got an easier life anyway. You may well find you don't want to sell it. I've certainly got to a point where, for me, yes, like the idea of exiting, but then realize that once you got to that point, you've got this cash flowing machine where you don't have to be so involved with the day-to-day operations. You look at some of the multiples that agencies are now going for, and a lot of them really aren't that great, especially if you built a personal brand where they're still kind of reliant on you to actually generate the leads. Then you might be looking at quite a small multiplier, in which case, why not just keep it and keep the cash flow?
Yeah, that's true. And that's something as well that we're trying to make more of a conscious decision about, is like splitting the reliance on myself and Nick, my business partner, as like the, for it to be able to run completely without us. But if you're anything like me, which I'm sure you are, we like getting on podcasts and going to conferences and stuff. So it's hard to like not become a personal brand that is attached to your company. But I can definitely see the benefits of trying to not be like solely reliant on that. But we'll see. It's a lot of fun still. So, I've got no plans other than just to grow, and to try and get out of day to day a bit more than I currently am.
On that note, whether this was what you did or if you had to start again from zero, how would you recommend people get their first 5 to 10 clients?
Niche down on what you're offering. So don't just say, I'm an SEO agency. Like, I think that's going to be really hard unless you've already got like a big following or anything like that. Then I would definitely niche down on one thing that you're really good at within that. So if you're starting an SEO agency, let's say you are really good, local SEO, or like a part of local SEO, maybe you're really good at image backlink building, something like that. Find a specific focus and offer that service that you can do for free to some influencers in your space. But obviously before that, you need to start connecting and forming a relationship with these influencers as well. That's how we did it. And I think that works well because it's, as long as you're not just going out to someone cold, like if someone just messages you tomorrow and say, hello, SEO Jesus, I saw your YouTube video the other day. Can you promote my product? It ain't going to happen. Comment, like, I know it sounds like, it almost sounds like a bit cringe to say, follow their stuff and like them. But if you're genuinely in the space and you're like following people that are offering value, then a comment, or an interaction is actually, it's worth it for you. It's good for them. It's like, it's all benefit. And there's no reason why you wouldn't want to do that. Like if I saw you post something on X that I hadn't thought about and I said, oh, that's a great idea, I'm going to test that. Instantly then, yes, from a selfish point of view, that means that you have then ticked the box of now the connect or try and reach out to them. It's not cold. You've already, made that first touch point with them. But also you should be absorbing other people's content and looking at other people's strategies. So why not like join the conversation? And then once you've done that, then if you're really good at one thing, say, hey, look, we're really good at this. This is how much we charge. I'd love to just do it for you for free. So you can see what you think. And maybe if you like it, maybe you'd consider promoting us to your email list, to your audience. I think that's a great approach.
Very nice. And would you offer them a commission on that, or would you say it's much more about goodwill?
It depends. Like,
I think with me, I think you've probably done the same thing. You do a service for them for either a discount or free, and then they promote it to the list in return. So it's not a cut per se. It's not like an incentivized placement. It's much more of a, yes, we'd love to gift you this service. And then if you want to promote it to your list and what the results were, then feel free. Yeah.
And play it by ear as well. Like if they come back to you and they're quite big in the space and they say, oh, these results are fantastic. If they're having that conversation with you, then try and go from like single exchange to like building into the conversation long-term, like partnership and long-term working together. So say, oh, I'm really glad that you're really pleased with the results. Actually, this is something that we would maybe consider doing for you, for the next 2 or 3 months. Like, would you consider promoting us? If you've got an affiliate program, that's always an incentive as well, or set up like a referral agreement. There's so much you can do with it, but obviously the more people that you're interacting with and working with, then the more different opportunities that you can see. And you don't know where the opportunities will take you either. Like you might have somebody that you've been speaking with on social for 2 or 3 months. You may say to them, hey, I'd love to do this for free for you. They may say, oh, I'm actually not interested in that, but I've got a friend who would be, and I'll put you in touch with him. So the opportunities are endless. You just got to put yourself out there to see if they fall on your lap.
Very nice. Just got a few more minutes left, and I have one final question for you, if I can remember what it was. Damn it, it was a good one.
Leave your audience hanging.
Yes, my audience, exactly. So it talks about how so much of the SEO market for years has been this sort of make money online crowd. Either they're stuck in their day job and want to get out, or they've got out and they're happily doing a couple of few thousand a month. And we've seen that all change over the last 6 months or so. So to anyone listening now, either just getting into SEO and they like the sound of it, but they're hearing all these threats and challenges. What should they do? Is it even worth pursuing? Or secondary, someone who's been in the game and been hit, maybe had a niche site or multiple niche sites, as is often the case, and now they're saying this doesn't work anymore. I'm going to start spamming quote images on Facebook and use the Facebook influencer program or TikTok Shop, Amazon influencer, something like that. What's your view on that?
I would start looking into like local SEO and local newsletters. Like John Dykstra's got a course on building a newsletter. You said earlier as well that local there's a lot you can do a local. I think you could make a really healthy business just looking at doing something in your hometown in terms of like ranking for local searches and building an email list. And once you've got that list, if you can get that to a few thousand, then you can find local businesses within your town that would pay money to sponsor that newsletter. I think that's a great starting point.
I think what I always find is you got to look back to where we were a couple of years ago, where we always say what we wanted to make. Well, first you want to make your first 1,000 a month, and then realistically to quit your day job, you need 3,000 a month maybe. And actually, that's really quite achievable. So you used to be able to do it with an affiliate site, and a model like that you absolutely could do. These days, I tend to be looking at much bigger goals than that. But I think all these mediums, absolutely valid to get 1,000 to 3,000 a month.
Yeah.
But as we've seen, the more sort of enterprise level of SEO or product based SEO is unaffected, and there's still a massive opportunity.
Yeah.
I think the limitation I always find, I'm still looking at ecom products, but it's a bit like your fish and chip shop story that I've even looked at acquiring local businesses, but at the end of the day, you're still looking at this very small 20% margin. And you realize that, okay, by spamming quotes on Facebook, you might be able to make $500 to $1,000 per month. But chances are a lot of that is actually going to be margin. Whereas even though I really like the idea of a proper bricks and mortar business or an ecom product where it's got that AI resistance, it's not going to be replaced in the next 5 years. But whichever way you look at it, you've got all these logistics involved, which are going to narrow your margin down to either 10, 20%, something like that.
Yeah, agreed. But which is why I think that the other good alternative is agency. Like if you can do something really, really well that is quite niche specific, and then you can build a personal brand around that service that you're offering, then you can scale an agency to a really nice, like, job quitting level of income and beyond. And there's loads of great people in the agency space that you can follow. And the skills as well that you could be watching this YouTube video now going, well, I don't know how to do anything, but you can go out and learn how to do stuff just from all the free stuff that's available. Then you can, invest a little bit in some more advanced courses. You can test it and try it yourself. Then you can start trying to acquire your first 1 or 2 clients. And then before you know it, you could be handing in your notice to your employer because you've got, an agency with, freelancers that you've hired, maybe full-time contracted positions. It's 100% doable.
That's exactly the conclusion I get to every time. But yes, agencies get a lot of hate. But the fact is, if you can solve a specific problem for specific businesses, and these kinds of business-to-business services are hugely valuable. You look at a big enterprise where take something as simple as copywriting. In a big enterprise, they don't want an in-house person doing their copywriting. They want to hand that over to an external freelancer, and an agency is just a glorified freelancer with bigger scale, more clients. So that's what I always come to with these kinds of sort of side hustle ideas, whereas ecom products, local businesses, ultimately you turn around and you think the agency is still solving these problems for these kinds of businesses, so should probably just keep doing that.
Yeah,
Linkify is a perfect example of that, where certainly in our industry, we know what Haro links are, and that kind of responding to journalist pitches, very different to the more classic digital PR that seems to be springing up all over the place at the moment. So, I think people tend to overcomplicate it. They like the idea of in my case, yeah, if I really enjoy bonsai, then wouldn't it be great to have a bonsai blog where I can sell bonsai products and courses?
Hmm.
Uh, sure, that's great. But for one thing, you're monetizing your hobby, which is kind of dangerous. And then at the same time, ultimately, if you have these business skills that you used to do in a day job that you can now offer to multiple enterprises, the chances are you can deliver far more value and get far more in return for just a few hours of doing that, rather than working hard at this passion project trying to monetize a bonsai blog.
Yeah. Yeah, 100% agree. Yeah, I think you've summed that up perfectly.
So on that note, how can people get in touch with you? I'm trying to get you on to deliver a one-on-one work, well, I say one-on-one, a very intimate workshop to my mastermind community, where we can really go into the weeds on your step-by-step process, doing a bit of a internal case study, if you like. But other than that, for everyone else viewing, how can they get in touch?
Yeah, sure. And that'll be a lot of fun. Yeah. Yeah, we're Twitter, Linkify _. LinkedIn, Christopher Panteli, or you can just go on linkify.io or email me, chris@linkify.io, schedule a call. I think we've got like a Calendly booking thing there. Or just, yeah, reach out on Twitter, DMs, LinkedIn as well.
Very nice. And just one final question as well. Like I say, these digital PR agencies are springing up all over the place. I've probably now had about 5 offers of either sponsorship, white label, affiliate, that sort of thing. What's your view on that? It seems like not everyone can be doing this to a really high standard.
Yeah.
What are some of the pitfalls you're aware of? What should you look out for? Yeah, tell us more. You're the expert.
Yeah, 100%. You need to be aware of what they're gonna give you. Like I say to everybody that I speak to is, we are by no means fast, but we are quality. And when I say quality, I mean we are actually offering what it is that we're selling, which is editorially earned digital PR links, either via our PR campaigns, which is where we're taking the campaigns to the journalists, or inbound requests from journalists where we'll pitch Haro for you. Either way, either case, they're earned media. So no paid links, no guest posts that look like they've been made to appear like PR link. Fast links, if they come really fast, then nothing works fast really. Just be aware, ask questions to the agencies that you're with, scrutinize your links as well. If any agency is offering you like a very low amount, I mean, this is a labor intensive, difficult thing to do and get right. If they're offering you a crazily low amount and they're guaranteeing things like do follow, that's a big red flag. I mean, the best websites on the planet exclusively no follow links. If you were to win a link on The Guardian, which is like one of the biggest, most respected news publications in the UK, they no follow. So, if you want good links and your PR agency is saying we guarantee to follow, then red flag. Yeah, I think that's it. But just, yeah, be careful out there. And, as with anything, I mean, PR is obviously a very old industry, which is now us SEOs have like moved into a little bit. And if SEOs get involved in anything, it ruins it. So yeah, just be careful. And, they're great links, but just make sure you work with someone you trust.
Yeah, it definitely reminds me when I first cracked link building, I thought at the time you could get these guest post links for around $50 or so. So I thought, why is everyone charging $300-400 per link? So I'm going to lowball them all, and I'm going to do $100 per link. So I'll double my money on every link we build. Very quickly, you get this one client, you reach out to the webmaster and you say, can I have this link? And they say, nope, we can't. Well, that article you wanted is not available, or that category, we've already got an exclusive sponsor in that category, so we don't allow anyone else in there. All kinds of back and forth you get. So same thing with you. Everything that seems like a simple SOP, you find there's so much that can still go wrong within that negotiation between people. So very quickly, I found $100 per link. In theory, doubling my money was just impossible and not scalable.
Yeah.
Then I understood why everyone charges a minimum of $250-300 per link.
Yeah.
So yeah, the fact that you're at $750 within the Haro links market, that's pretty standard because, as you say, it's much more this hand-done curated process.
Yeah.
Yeah, perfectly understandable. So thank you for coming on the show. Everyone watching, do feel free to please leave reviews and rate the podcast. I'm trying to get better at the actual podcast platforms rather than just YouTube. Otherwise, yeah, do have a look at the Disciples Mastermind. Chris will be giving this workshop, I hope, once we've worked out the actual focus, and then that will go into our recordings vault, so you can get Chris's full course on his process in there.